outfit reckoned they had a leash on the champ, figured the brown bomber was just another pawn. Armed with a fountain pen and a smile, they thought a signature would turn a legend into their personal property. Dead wrong. Because when the godfather of Harlem, Bumpy Johnson, stepped through that door on August 14th, 1940, he wasn't holding a briefcase. He was holding cold steel. And the lesson he taught those three wise guys made him shred the deal and run like hell, never to look back. August 14th, 1940, Harlem. Joe Louis was 26, sitting on the throne of America, the heavyweight king, the brown bomber, the man nobody could touch, the same hands that put Max Schmeling to sleep in front of 70,000 screaming fans. Pure excellence. Between the ropes, the man was a god. But on the street, he was just a mark. See, Joe had the kind of trouble that comes with the crown in 1940. The cash was flowing, but keeping it? That's a different game. The prize money hit his pockets hard and fast. 100 grand a fight, but it bled out quicker than it came in. Taxes, family, leeches, bad counsel everywhere. Joe was drowning in success, and the outfit smelled blood in the water. That afternoon, Joe found himself in a hole-in-the-wall office on 125th Street. No boxing ring, no glory, just a tight room with peeling walls and a cheap desk. Sitting across the table were three wolves in silk suits. First up, Vincent Gallo, mid-50s, greasy hair and a smile like a loaded gun promising the world, delivering nothing. Then there was Frank the Fixer Marino, thick neck, stone silent, a thug playing dress-up, and finally, Anthony DiNapoli, the kid, twitchy. He handled the ink. Now, these weren't fight promoters. They called themselves investment advisors, and sitting between them was the death sentence, 15 pages of fine print, and a pitch that made Joe's eyes shine like diamonds, the Cotton Club. "Joe," Gallo purred, his voice smooth as aged whiskey, "you're living large right now. But what happens when the bell rings for the last time? When the checks stop coming? You gotta secure the legacy." He slid a glossy brochure across the wood. Pictures of the Cotton Club, the crown jewel of Harlem nightlife. Classy, expensive, a gold mine. "We're expanding," he says. 3 new spots, Harlem, the Bronx, Brooklyn. But we need partners, smart money, men who know the game. Men with a name that carries weight. Frank leaned in, closing the distance. "You drop 50 large, Joe. 2 years, we triple it. 150 grand, stone-cold guarantee, plus a 10% cut of the whole empire. Joe Louis Cotton Club. Picture that on the marquee, champ." And Joe? He saw it clearly. Walking into his kingdom, the crowd roaring his name. He saw peace for his mother. He saw a future. But what he didn't see, the knife at his throat. The paperwork looked clean. Official letterhead, corporate jargon, big numbers on the front. But deep in the weeds, page 11, section 7, subsection C was the kill shot. Joe's 50 grand wasn't buying bricks. It was going into a pool. A pool controlled 100% by Gallo. And that guaranteed money? Tied to impossible numbers. Targets that didn't exist. That 10% slice, just stock in a ghost company with 0 assets. And the kicker? If Joe tried to walk away, he'd owe them 100 grand in damages. A classic bust-out, the oldest trick in the book. Boxers, singers, they take the cash, burn the bridge, and leave the mark owing interest. Joe Louis was a killer in the ring, but a lamb at the table. He didn't smell the rat. "I don't know," Joe muttered, shifting in his seat. 50 large. That's a heavy hit. Nearly everything I got stashed. "Maybe I run this by my manager first." Gallo cut him off cold. "Your manager? He knows towels, kid. He don't know business." DiNapoli cut in sharp. "This is the big leagues. You need guys who know the pavement, guys who run the night, guys who know how to make a dollar multiply. Plus," Gallo leaned in, "the window on this shuts by morning. We got heavy hitters waiting in line, Sugar Ray, big-time musicians. You back out now. That's it. The door locks. But it was all smoke. There were no other buyers. This whole setup was a cage built for one man. Joe Louis reached for the ink. Then the atmosphere shifted. Bumpy Johnson didn't knock, didn't ask permission. He walked in like he held the deed to the building. And in Harlem, that wasn't far from the truth. At 35 years old, Bumpy was the godfather of these streets. 3 years fresh out of Sing Sing, he had the numbers racket in a chokehold, his protection lines drawn in stone, and he made sure every Italian crew in New York knew this was his turf. He wore a charcoal 3-piece suit like armor, crisp white shirt, tie black as midnight, and tucked in his waistband the straight razor that had etched his name into the pavement of Harlem. Bumpy's cold gaze drifted from Joe Louis, holding the pen, to the 3 wise guys. His expression was dead calm. It didn't need to be anything else. "Joe," Bumpy said, voice low and heavy, "drop the pen." Joe looked up, dazed. "Bumpy, I'm in the middle of business. I know exactly what you're in. Drop the pen." Joe set the pen down. Gallo plastered on a plastic smile. "Mr. Johnson, this is a closed-door sit-down. We're discussing, I know what you're discussing. You're discussing how to bleed $50,000 out of the champ and call it an investment." He strolled to the desk, snatched up the contract, and started thumbing through the pages. He didn't read the fine print. He didn't have to. He knew the scent of a hustle. Different faces, same old grift. Bumpy tossed the papers back onto the wood. "The Cotton Club." He stared Gallo down. "That's cute. I'll give you credit. Make a man feel like he's buying a piece of the crown jewel. Put his name in lights." He turned to Joe. "Joe, look at me. Let me ask you a straight question. You ever set foot inside the Cotton Club?" Joe shook his head. "They don't." He stopped, the ugly truth catching in his throat. "They don't let our kind in." Bumpy finished for him. "Not through the front door, only on stage to dance. And you're telling me these 3 sharks want to make you a boss? In a joint where you can't even buy a drink?" The color drained from Joe's face. The dream died right there. Gallo tried to backpedal. "That's the old management. The new spots, they're going to be open to everyone. Garbage." Bumpy's voice was sharper than a blade. "There is no expansion. There are no new spots. There's just a lie designed to strip Joe Louis naked." He grabbed the contract again. "Flip to page 11, section 7, subsection C, the money pool, subject to partner discretion. In plain English, we take your cash and do whatever the hell we want. Performance-based returns. In plain English, you get 0. Early withdrawal penalty. In plain English, if you ask for your money back, you owe us double for the insult." Bumpy glared at the 3 men. "This ain't business. It's a shakedown, and you 3 walked into my backyard thinking the champ was an easy mark." Frank Marino's jaw went tight. "Listen here, Johnson. We're legitimate businessmen. This is a solid deal." Bumpy reached into his suit. Not fast, not reckless, just smooth, inevitable. He laid the straight razor on the mahogany, blade still hidden, resting right beside their shiny brochure. The room went tomb quiet. "Let me tell you what's legitimate," Bumpy said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Joe Louis is the heart of Harlem. 2 years ago, he flattened Hitler's boy. He made every dark-skinned soul in America walk with pride. The man is not just a fighter. He is a monument." Bumpy locked eyes with them, his gaze cold and absolute. "And you 3 mooks strolled into my house, thinking you could bleed him dry like a stuck pig." DiNapoli tried to stammer an excuse. "We are strictly discussing business. That is not business. That is robbery with a signature." Bumpy produced the straight razor from his coat. The steel glinted, hungry for work. "So, here is the counter-proposal. You shred that piece of trash, right here, while I watch. Then you take a walk out of Harlem and forget the name Joe Louis exists. No deals, no schemes. Don't even nod if you see him." Gallo's mask slipped. We can't. We got friends downtown. We answer to people. I don't care who holds your leash. Up here, I am the connection, and the champ is under my wing." He raised the blade. "You know what this tool is for? It ain't for opening mail. It is for carving lessons into people who forget their place. Wise guys who think they can waltz into my backyard and rob the family." His voice went quiet, deadly quiet. "So, this is how the night ends. You either turn that paper into confetti, or I use this blade to etch the word thief onto your skulls." Then I put the word out. To every mobster, every suit, every number runner from here to the Windy City. They will know you tried to stiff the champ. He let the silence hang heavy. Your careers will be over. You will be poison. And every morning in the mirror, you will read my handwriting on your face, a permanent reminder of the day you disrespected Harlem. Fear manifested as a dark, spreading stain on DiNapoli's trousers. Frank was rattling like a leaf. Gallo looked like a ghost. "We are doing it," Gallo stuttered. "We are tearing it up right now. Smart move." Bumpy watched like a hawk. Gallo grabbed the papers with shaking fingers. Rip, rip, page by page. 15 pages of lies turned to trash on the floor. Job done. Bumpy turned to the champ. "Joe, these bums are leaving. You stick with me." They stepped out onto 125th Street. Joe Louis finally breathed. "Bumpy, how did you get wise? How did you know I was in that trap?" "Nothing moves in Harlem without me knowing," Bumpy said. "A bird saw you walk in with 3 suits from downtown. That news hit my ear before you even sat down." They strolled the pavement. Locals parted like the Red Sea, nodding with pure respect, giving the man his lane. "I had the pen in my hand," Joe whispered. "I thought it was a legit deal. I thought I was securing the bag for later." Bumpy stopped dead in his tracks. "Joe, you are a god inside the ropes, but the world out here on the pavement, it is colder than any canvas. There are more sharks trying to cut you with ink than there are boxers trying to take your head off." He gripped Joe's shoulder firmly. "You want to play businessman? Good, but you hire your own mouthpiece. Not their guy, someone on your payroll. Who reads the fine print? Who doesn't sugarcoat it? You don't put ink to paper unless you know the angle, and if a deal smells too sweet, it is probably rotten." Joe finished the thought. "Bingo," Bumpy resumed his stride. "And listen to me, kid. You ain't just a prize fighter. You are a beacon. Every kid in the neighborhood looks at you and sees a future. That means you got a duty. Keep your head on a swivel. Stay free. Run your own show." Joe took it in. "Why stick your neck out for me, Bumpy? It wasn't your problem." "Yeah, it was. When you dropped that German, I felt the ground shake too. When you fight for us, you fight for me, and nobody touches what belongs to me." Bumpy cracked a rare smile. "Look, Joe, I'm a gangster. I break the rules. I hurt people who need hurting. I do the dirty work. But you know where I draw the line? I don't rob my own blood. I don't set traps for legends. I don't make victims out of kings." He looked Joe dead in the eye. "Those 3 suits, they are the real crooks. At least I'm honest about what I am. That's the difference between a soldier and a crook." Vincent Gallo, Frank Marino, and Anthony DiNapoli walked out of Harlem that afternoon and never came back. The word hit the street fast. Joe Louis was untouchable. Bumpy Johnson had drawn a line in the sand. Joe Louis went on to defend the heavyweight crown 25 times over the next 10 years. He made a fortune. Sure, he took some financial hits later on. Bad investments, the tax man, the usual troubles that bleed a man dry. But he never fell for a hustle again. Bumpy Johnson had taught him to read the fine print. Years later, in 1962, a reporter asked Joe, "You had a long run. Plenty of sharks tried to take a piece of you. How'd you stay sharp?" Joe smiled. "I had a friend watching my back when I didn't even know I was in the crosshairs." Who was this friend? If you're from Harlem, you know the name. If you're not, it's none of your business. What matters is, he taught me that muscle in the ring don't mean a thing if you're soft on the street. In 1981, Joe Louis punched his final clock. At the funeral, they found a letter written years back, sealed until he was gone. To Bumpy Johnson, you saved me from the thieves in silk suits. You taught me that a smile is often a mask, and not every open hand is friendly. You showed me that real power isn't just about the hit. It's about knowing when to walk away. I never paid my respects properly, so I'm doing it now. You weren't just the king of Harlem. You were my shield, and I owed you big. Bumpy never saw that letter. He passed in 1968, but the men who knew the score understood what that August day in 1940 was about. It wasn't about a contract. It wasn't about $50,000. It was about a code. Harlem protects its own. You don't rob our heroes. And anyone who tries learns the hard way, usually at the end of a blade. If this story of loyalty, respect, and power resonates with you, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, send this to someone who needs to understand that the dangerous enemies don't use fists. They use ink and empty promises. Drop a comment. Have you ever spotted a rat trying to sell you a dream that was too good to be true? We keep these stories alive. Bumpy Johnson stood tall for Harlem's legends, and their history demands respect.